American forces pioneered underwater demolition teams to remove obstacles before the landing craft reached the shore. Each tool or tactic borrowed from earlier models, but the overarching system had no precedent. At Normandy, Sicily, Salerno, and Leyte Gulf, the U.S. demonstrated that large-scale amphibious assaults were operationally feasible. Germany, despite planning Operation Sea Lion in 1940 and abandoning it in part because the capability was lacking, never developed that capacity. Every coastline across Europe, Africa, and the Pacific transformed into a potential battlefield. Germany was forced to defend them all. American artillery's effectiveness in the Second World War went far beyond sheer numbers. It could saturate a target simultaneously from multiple batteries at varying distances and angles, often minutes, after a forward observer relayed coordinates. This precision was orchestrated by the Fire Direction Center, a battalion-level computation hub maintaining constantly updated data on each battery's location, registered targets, and the ballistic solutions for any point within range. When a forward observer called in fire on a target grid, there was no waiting for individual batteries to solve the equations themselves. The FDC calculated for all units instantly and transmitted firing instructions, putting rounds into the air before a German battery commander had completed a single calculation. Entire crossroads could be saturated by American artillery in under 10 minutes. While German artillery was competent, achieving the same concentration demanded more time and deliberate coordination. Commanders who survived American barrages later described them as almost beyond tactical comprehension. These were shells arriving faster than adjustments could be made, redefining battlefield expectations. Innovation in science and technology was embodied by the Office of Scientific Research and Development. In June 1940, Vannevar Bush presented a single page to President Roosevelt, establishing the National Defense Research Committee. Within a year, it evolved into the OSRD, a federal agency empowered to contract directly with universities, corporations, and independent researchers for military R&D, bypassing peacetime procurement processes. The OSRD allocated $450 million, equivalent to roughly $8 billion today, producing the proximity fuse, advanced radar, mass-produced penicillin, superior explosives, and the research foundations that led to the atomic bomb. Bell Laboratories engineered components for the fuse, MIT's Radiation Laboratory advanced radar, and Johns Hopkins spearheaded fire control research. The guiding principle was clear. The experts in physics, chemistry, and electronics were outside the War Department, housed in universities and corporate labs. Bush created a bridge from knowledge to national service and provided it with resources. Germany possessed brilliant scientists, but lacked the institutional framework to connect their discoveries to production swiftly enough to impact the war. The Manhattan Project was the apex of wartime innovation. Germany maintained a nuclear weapons effort, the Uranium Club, including some of the finest physicists such as Werner Heisenberg, Carl Friedrich von Weizsäcker, and Otto Hahn, but by the war's later stages, many scientists had fled Nazi rule. Figures like Einstein, Fermi, Szilard, and Teller ultimately contributed to Los Alamos. After Germany surrendered, captured scientists were detained at Farm Hall in England, their discussions secretly recorded. On August 6, 1945, they learned via BBC that an atomic bomb had devastated Hiroshima. Heisenberg initially disbelieved it, miscalculating the material required by a factor of roughly 1,000. The shortfall in Germany's nuclear program wasn't a single mistake. Its research was fragmented across competing institutions, Allied bombings disrupted heavy water production, and exiled scientists were now at Los Alamos. The Manhattan Project employed 130,000 personnel across 30 sites in 3 countries, costing $2 billion in completing the bomb in under 3 years from conception to deployment. Its achievement wasn't just the weapon itself, it was the culmination of mass production. OSRD's organizational framework applied at continental scale, and the harnessing of scientific talent Germany had expelled. Germany feared American weapons, but the true advantage lay in the nation that built them. Germany never paused in exploring proximity fuses. Ryan Metallborsig studied acoustic fuses triggered by engine noise, while other programs pursued electrostatic and capacitive detection. Radio fuse prototypes were designed, modified, and eventually abandoned. By war's end, German engineers had examined countless designs for shells detonating near targets rather than upon impact or timer. None entered service. The American counterpart, however, succeeded. Conceived in secrecy at Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Laboratory, it contained a compact radio transmitter, receiver, vacuum tubes, battery, and detonation mechanism, engineered to endure firing from artillery, resisting 20,000 G-forces and 25,000 revolutions per minute through rifling. Over 22 million units were manufactured. Allied authorities treated its existence as classified at the level of D-Day and the Manhattan Project, deploying it only when dud shells couldn't fall into enemy hands. In December 1944, Eisenhower authorized its release during the Battle of the Bulge, revealing its devastating impact to German divisions advancing through the Ardennes. Patton dubbed it the funny fuse, and credited it with saving the region of Liege. Despite having some of the world's finest ordnance engineers, Germany could not replicate it. This gap, rooted not in effort but in the industrial and scientific ecosystem, runs through every entry on this list. The distinction between Germany and the United States extended beyond battlefield deployment to factories, research institutions, and organizational structures behind the front lines. Henry Ford had pioneered the assembly line long before the Second World War, operating one since 1913. What America achieved was applying mass production to weapons at unprecedented speed and scale, sustaining output over time. The Sherman tank emerged from 11 separate plants: Ford, Fisher Body, Chrysler, Pressed Steel Car, Lima Locomotive, among others, all using standardized parts assembled by workers with weeks of training instead of years of apprenticeship. In 1943, machinists who had previously built car engines turned to tank production. Parts were interchangeable across plants. Field failures were replaced with components from any production line, maintaining operational readiness. This principle extended to shipbuilding. At Kaiser's Richmond, California facility, the SS Robert E. Perry was constructed from prefabricated sections in 4 days, 15 hours, and 29 minutes in November 1942, a demonstration of the method's potential. Routine production by 1943 averaged 41 days per ship, down from 355 days initially. Germany's manufacturing model, reliant on skilled artisans producing small batches to precise standards, never transitioned conceptually. American logic favored weapons good enough to mass produce quickly over perfect instruments built slowly by thousands of experts. Eisenhower highlighted 3 tools as vital to Allied victory: the C-47 transport, the Duck amphibious truck, and the Jeep. The Sherman tank, M1 Garand, and proximity fuse did not make this list. The Jeep's significance was not mechanical, it was doctrinal. Quarter-ton four-wheel drive vehicles existed before 1941, but the revolution was in command mobility. Whereas a German battalion commander moved along roads, an American commander went wherever the mission dictated. 647,000 Jeeps, built by Willys and Ford to standardized specifications with interchangeable parts, ensured this mobility. Lend-Lease recipients prized them, and captured units immediately revealed a vehicle unmatched by German production in off-road performance and volume. German infantry doctrine emphasized centralized control, with officers issuing orders from above, and communication relying on field telephones and runners for coordination below battalion level. Radios existed in some units at company level, but lateral communication and rapid calls for fire moved slowly. The SCR 300 and SCR 536 changed this dynamic. The SCR 300, a 32-pound backpack FM radio, enabled company commanders to communicate with both their battalion and adjacent units simultaneously. The SCR 536, the first handheld transceiver, gave platoon leaders the ability to coordinate directly. American infantry adapted quickly, filling gaps, shifting flanks, and redirecting fire, demonstrating coordination German units could not match. The SCR 536, the first truly handheld transceiver and the forerunner of every walkie-talkie that followed, put direct communication power in the hands of platoon leaders. American infantry could coordinate sideways across the battlefield. A platoon under fire could reach its neighbor instantly without relaying messages up the battalion chain. Forward observers at both platoon and company levels could connect directly to fire direction centers. By 1944, an American rifle company often had more embedded radio capability than many German battalion headquarters. Commanders who faced U.S. units consistently remarked on how rapidly American troops adapted. Gaps were sealed, flanks responded, artillery shifted. That flexibility came from the radio. In 1941, Dr. Charles Drew established the first large-scale blood plasma program for the American Red Cross, building on his research at Columbia University in plasma preservation and storage. Plasma, the liquid portion of blood stripped of red cells, could be dehydrated, kept at room temperature, transported to frontline positions, and reconstituted with water in the field. Blood type matching was unnecessary. Any soldier could receive it immediately after injury. This created a life-saving system unparalleled by German or Japanese medical services. A wounded American reaching a forward surgical hospital could receive plasma on arrival. Mobile surgical teams were ready to operate within an hour, and forward hospitals advanced with combat units, reducing evacuation times from days to mere hours. German casualties, by contrast, faced a slower chain of care, fewer forward resources, and no equivalent plasma network. The combination of collection, dried storage, forward deployment, and prioritizing survival as highly as combat effectiveness defined this innovation. The VT proximity fuse revolutionized artillery. Encased in a shell, it contained a miniaturized radio transmitter, receiver, vacuum tubes, battery, and detonation circuit, 130 components in total, engineered to survive cannon firing. When the shell passed within 70 feet of a target, reflected radio waves triggered detonation above the ground, showering enemy troops with shrapnel who had previously learned to survive by hitting the dirt. Hitting cover no longer guaranteed safety. Produced by over 100 American firms and withheld in Europe until December 1944, the VT fuse debuted at the Battle of the Bulge as German divisions advanced across exposed terrain in the Ardennes. Confident that clouds neutralized Allied air support and precise artillery was impossible, German forces found that the fuse needed neither clear skies nor spotters. Within days of release, 200,000 shells were fired. German units caught in the open suffered casualties described by their commanders as unprecedented. Churchill credited the fuse with halting Germany's V1 campaign over Britain, and Patton attributed saving the Ardennes to it. Conceived at Johns Hopkins, mass-produced across industry and tightly guarded as a secret, this weapon was one Germany never succeeded in replicating. Henry Kaiser, who had never built a ship before 1940 and had only experience with dams, approached the Liberty ship program with the mindset of a construction engineer unfamiliar with traditional shipbuilding. He divided vessels into prefabricated sections, manufactured across the United States, and welded them together at shipyards like assembly line components. The result was an astonishing 2,710 Liberty ships between 1941 and 1945, averaging 3 ships every 2 days at peak production. The first, the SS Patrick Henry, took 244 days. The record holder, the SS Robert E. Peary, launched in just 4 days and 15 hours. In 1943, German U-boats had been sinking Allied ships faster than ever, but Kaiser's production reversed the balance. Each ship could carry 2,840 jeeps, 440 tanks, or 230 million rounds of rifle ammunition. Germany destroyed hundreds, but America built thousands. The arithmetic alone was insurmountable. American forces also perfected amphibious combined arms doctrine. No modern military had previously integrated tanks, artillery, trucks, and infantry into a sustained amphibious campaign at the scale Americans achieved. The objective was not a raid, but the projection of a full army from sea onto defended shores while sustaining supply lines. The British had attempted amphibious assaults at Gallipoli, ending in disaster. Americans succeeded through integration of multiple innovations. Higgins boats transported infantry in the initial wave. LSTs delivered tanks directly onto beaches. Ducks moved cargo from ship to shore without ports. Naval gunfire was coordinated with infantry advances via shore fire control parties equipped with radios. Underwater demolition teams cleared obstacles before landings. Individually, these elements had precedence, but collectively, they formed a system without equal. Normandy, Sicily, Salerno, and Leyte Gulf proved that large-scale amphibious assault could be operationally effective. Germany, having planned Operation Sea Lion in 1940 and abandoned it due to lack of capability, never developed it. Every coastline across Europe, Africa, and the Pacific became a potential battleground, forcing Germany to defend them all. The Fire Direction Center elevated artillery beyond simple mass. U.S. guns could focus on a single target from multiple batteries at varying distances and angles, with rounds arriving simultaneously after a forward observer called the coordinates. The FDC, a battalion-level computation hub, constantly maintained pre-calculated data on battery positions, registered targets, and ballistic solutions. A forward observer did not wait for individual batteries. He provided the grid, and the FDC calculated for all units simultaneously, sending rounds into the air before German batteries completed a single calculation. Entire crossroads could be saturated in under 10 minutes. German fire control was competent but slower and required deliberate coordination. Survivors wrote that American barrages were not just heavier, they arrived faster than adjustment was possible. The Office of Scientific Research and Development emerged from a single sheet presented by Vannevar Bush to President Roosevelt in June 1940. It created the National Defense Research Committee, which within a year evolved into the OSRD, empowered to contract directly with universities, corporations, and independent researchers for military technology, bypassing normal procurement processes. The OSRD spent $450 million, about $8 billion today, producing the proximity fuse, radar, mass-produced penicillin, improved explosives, and foundational research leading to the atomic bomb. Bell Laboratories created components for fuses, MIT developed radar, and Johns Hopkins managed fire control research. Bush understood that the experts were outside government. He brought them into national service and funded them. Germany had excellent scientists, but lacked the organizational infrastructure to mobilize them effectively from academia to industry. Finally, the Manhattan Project represented the pinnacle of these efforts. Germany's nuclear program, the Uranium Club, included renowned physicists such as Werner Heisenberg, Carl Friedrich von Weizsäcker, and Otto Hahn, but many scientists had fled Nazi rule. Figures like Einstein, Fermi, Szilard, and Teller contributed to Los Alamos. Captured German scientists were detained at Farm Hall, England, where their conversations were recorded. On August 6, 1945, they learned from the BBC about Hiroshima. Heisenberg initially disbelieved it, having miscalculated material requirements by roughly 1,000 times. The shortfall was systemic: fragmented institutions, disrupted heavy water supply, and expatriated scientists at Los Alamos. The Manhattan Project employed 130,000 personnel across 30 sites in 3 countries, cost $2 billion, and produced the bomb in under 3 years. It was more than the weapon itself. It represented assembly line production applied to uranium enrichment, OSRD's continental scale framework, and the deployment of displaced scientific talent. Germany feared the weapons. What they should have feared was the industrial and organizational might behind them. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.